Hi, GHAF family. Here we are in another quarantine Sabbath where we're not meeting in our church. We miss you, but we're glad we get to see you online and with virtual church. So we're welcoming you, and we're just happy that we do get to worship together, even if it's online.
Hopefully you've been able to appreciate the nice sunny weather we've been having. We sure miss everybody, but having church online has been a great thing, and we're so glad that you're here with us today.
It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. You were the Word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ.
Okay. So, thanks for being here, everyone.
Yeah.
So, quarantine's been going on for a little over a month now, or almost a month. How's it been?
It's been interesting. Like, I don't know. I've been exercising a lot more, so I guess that's good. I guess just like we've all been keeping up with school and like navigating that online. And I've been doing more reading. I've been doing like some art project stuff. We've been doing puzzles. And so that's just kind of, I don't know, kind of whatever. We've had a lot of projects at our property as well. So
Yeah.
that's keeping us busy too. So
It sounded like, based on the conversation I had with your dad, I think Sean was there too in the last one.
yeah.
It sounded like he's keeping you guys busy. So
Yeah, it's just like various things that need to be done, and then the next thing, and like we have speakers up in our ceiling now. That was kind of our last big project, and like
wow, that's awesome.
Super like system for like this wood panel thing that holds our weights. So
Dang.
for downstairs, so it's just been like various things. Yeah,
That's at least you guys have some stuff to keep busy. So how about for you? How about for you, Reagan?
Yeah, it's been okay. I mean, it depends on the day whether I love it or I want to kill somebody. But you know, I certainly like having time to myself. Which in a ways it's easier to get, but in a way it's also harder because I live with 5 other people. But I've loved getting back into reading, even if I'm just mainly rereading books. But it's still very fun. And exercising more, yeah, that's, it's fun. And now something that's really annoying is that I haven't been listening to that much music. Because when, like the commute, when I drive, that's when I listen to music, and so that was annoying. So I decided to start running on the treadmill, and now that's when I listen to music. So that's been nice.
There you go.
But I figured I solved a problem. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. Not much is going on.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Emily? What's it been like for you?
It's been all right. I think I definitely miss like seeing people in person and like my friends and stuff. But I've been keeping pretty busy with school and yeah, just hanging in there. So
now, I didn't ask this question Maddie or Reagan, but are you extroverted or introverted? Which
I think I'm kind of in the middle, honestly. So
is it, because I'm introverted, so this has all been pretty decent. Like I don't mind it very much. Has it, I mean, like the social interaction side of it, does your family not cut it?
yeah.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Daniel? How's it been for you?
Like what other people have said, I'm more introverted myself, but I'm finding that I actually miss interacting with people just a little bit.
Yeah.
I've been walking a lot more. I've been trying to walk like twice a day. I've been practicing my instrument a lot more, both actually clarinet and piano. I've been practicing a lot more. And so that's mainly what I've been doing. I've also been writing music too. So I've been busy.
Nice. That's awesome. So you're gonna have some incredible like concerto. I don't even know how to say it anymore. I used to know all these things. You're gonna have some incredible like Mozart level piece after this, right?
I'll try. No problem.
Okay, perfect. I want to make sure. You gotta use the time well, right? So, Joel, how about you? How's everything been?
It's been interesting. I spend a lot of my time doing schoolwork because I have a lot of lectures to get through and a lot of other stuff to do. And I decided to turn screen time on my computer, and that was probably a mistake because I really didn't want to see, but I was just curious. But yeah, and also like I've been keeping my room like meticulously clean.
We can see that.
For you.
It's not clean for from our view.
It looks
It's
very
very
nice.
nice. Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
picking him up.
What he doesn't want us to see, what he doesn't want us to see is the floor. That's the
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
Nice.
almost got away with it, Joel.
So let me just ask this, because you guys have a little bit of a different perspective compared to most people who don't have to do school anymore. But most of you are in school. Give me the in a couple sentences the hardest part of the transition for you. And Emily, do you want to start off?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know yet.
I'll come back to you. Reagan, how about you?
It's actually not been that bad because I've only been doing school for like one day. But I'm very happy that I already had online classes planned. But my other class is sign language, and I'm not sure how that's going to work
Ooh,
yet.
yeah, that's tough.
That's going to be the worst one, but we'll see.
How about you, Maddie?
I would say just I miss some of the explanation and more in-depth stuff that comes with like in-person lecture. Like I'll get videos and stuff that have the lecture content, but I'm like not quite as clear on a few things. And I guess just keeping up with it and with the professors. I have professors who communicate really, really well. I have one professor I've heard basically nothing from. So it's been kind of a little bit nerve-wracking and just different, and managing my big senior project is this semester. So I've been trying to keep up on that as well. So.
Man, yeah, that's tough. How about you, Joel?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I haven't been able to connect with as many people as I wanted to. Like, usually I would go around to the dorm to some of my friends and just say, hey, how'd you do on this assignment? Or, having that face-to-face contact has been really difficult not to have. So that's what I've missed the most. And, you kind of get tired of seeing everybody on a screen after a while, and you just want to see them in person. That's kind of what I'm missing.
For sure. Yeah. Emily, have you come up with anything yet?
Yeah, I think I like how it's more flexible. Like some of my classes aren't at the time that they would normally be, so I can just do the work whenever. But I also miss, like Maddie said, the more in-depth explanations and stuff. So.
Yeah, being able to ask questions, like clarifying questions and stuff, I'm sure is a lot harder now. But
Right.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this question, guys. This is the first question of the whole thing. Now, the great part is that most people will have seen our worst styles, but that would be listening to this. But what's the worst style that you have ever rocked? What is the worst moment? Joel, do you want to start out?
I was thinking about this, and I've pretty much stayed like stationary, the same style my whole life.
That's
I've never,
I've
never really rocked anything like. I know, like some kids go through an emo phase. I never went through something like that. I just kind of, stayed the same.
Yeah.
So the worst part, I'm not saying this is a bad style. All I'm saying is if this is your worst, then you've been stuck in it for a long time.
That's
right.
point, Joel.
So-
Yeah.
You might need to move on.
Yeah, I know. I get to the point where I might have to move on.
Okay, well, Daniel, I'm curious about yours, man.
So when I was thinking about this question, I'll break it down into aspects. Worst hair, like my hairstyle has been fairly consistent most of my life. I've had this haircut since probably about 6th grade, but for some reason, and I noticed this in my senior picture, for some reason I thought it was okay to have lamb chops. No
way.
Lamb chops.
Like Civil War era?
Kind of.
Like mutton chops? Like that level?
Like it was, so when I have a beard normally, I've actually shaved, so it's a little weird. I can't show you. But like this part right here was just like it wasn't long, but it was there.
Yeah.
It was pronounced.
That's not good.
And I looked at him like, why?
I like it.
Also, when I was younger, I've never liked wearing jeans, so I've consistently worn shorts a lot of my life. But when I was in elementary school, I wore sweatpants quite a bit, and I hate wearing sweatpants now. I will never leave the house in sweatpants.
Yeah. So, but back then, I mean, man, it's like just be comfortable. That's you had it down, man. So,
Yeah.
how about you, Emily?
So when I was looking at this question, I automatically thought of my like goth emo phase that I had in middle
You went through a
school.
goth emo phase. Okay.
I wore black all the time, and I had like really thick makeup that just looked horrible.
Yeah.
And
You
I
have
also
black nail polish?
no, not
Not that far. Okay.
no, not that far. And
We
then,
want to know where your line is. Yeah.
yeah. And then Daniel just reminded me of a hairstyle that, well, when he talked about his hairstyle, it reminded me of when I was in middle school and I had like a really short haircut and it did not look good. Like I was like, oh, my friend has this haircut. I want to have this haircut. And mom was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I look back and I'm like, why?
Yeah, you look back at like middle school is one of the worst times, or early high school. It's like, oh, yikes. So not making good style decisions then.
Yeah.
Honey, Chloe, did you go through a black nail polish phase?
I did.
Yeah, my wife went through a black nail polish phase. So not the rest of the goth part, but just black nail polish. So, but how about Megan or no, Maddie or Reagan? I just combined your names.
I would have done.
Oh my gosh.
Every
For how many? Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine. Okay.
Maddie or Reagan? How about you guys?
I think yours is worse, so we'll start with mine. So I didn't really have. I'm fairly boring. I didn't really have anything extreme that I did, except for I dressed myself when I was a kid, and I didn't always have sense. But there are a couple things that I remember that were more like kind of accessories that I thought were cool that obviously weren't cool. There were those, for a long time, I really wanted to have my ears pierced. I don't really know why, but I really, really wanted that. I have it now, but and so there are these magnetic earrings where it's just like a little earring and a magnet, and those things really hurt, but I wore them anyway because I was dumb. And so that was probably, they were just uncomfortable, so that was just a senseless move by me, I think. Yeah. But another one that I think was actually just like not fashionable and shouldn't have existed is, you remember these. There were these little, they were like hair extension. They weren't hair extensions, but they were like a thing of hair on like a clip, and they were different colors, like bright blue or like bright pink. Do you remember those, Emily?
I remember those.
Yes. So
that was
you
a
like lift
look,
up part of your
man.
hair and like snap it in, and then it would be like in your hair, but it.
I remember seeing those. Yeah, like even like in my high school time. So yeah.
Yeah, that's not as strong.
So Maddie, Reagan said you had the worst. So I'm curious about.
Worse than mine.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, when I was in middle school, I would like just dress kind of like I don't care, I guess. That was my like most prolonged like bad style, I guess, just like jeans and sneakers and sweatshirts. I don't know, when I was 7 years old, I did like this photo shoot thing of me wearing a Princess Jasmine like dress that was like made out of bright purple fishing net.
I think that was actually your best style.
Yeah. But one thing that did occur to me that we did do, which I guarantee you've never heard of, is jump drive necklaces.
Oh no!
I have definitely heard of that.
This was like, I don't know if it was a homeschooling thing, but like friends of ours would have like these long chains with a jump drive on the bottom, and it was so convenient.
Wait. Okay, so I know of jump drives with like, lanyards, but are you saying that you would wear that as a fashion statement?
Yes.
Okay, I have not heard of that.
Actually happened.
So yeah, that was probably
the worst.
I was probably 13, and you would have been like 10, 11. Yeah. So well, there you go for your imagination pleasure.
Wow. Well, see, there's been a few things that I've shared over the time. I don't remember what I've shared at North Hill or Gig Harbor, but anyways, one of the worst things when I was a kid was, one time I came out from my room. I was wearing 3 sweaters. 3. I decided I wanted to be warm and layer that day. And then the worst, the by far the worst, I think, is I was homeschooled and I had no fashion sense. So I wear cargo pants, like with the zip off legs. And then they would be like at least this much too short. Like and I wear white socks with tennis shoes that I wore all the time. So those were rough days. But we don't talk about them anymore. Was that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so I have a hunch that I know how long Reagan, Maddie, and Joel have been a part of Gig Harbor, which is pretty much the whole time, right?
Yeah, from the start. Yeah.
Now, I know that your parents, Emily and Daniel, came a little bit later. How long have you guys been part of Gig Harbor?
We've been a part of Gig Harbor since the end of 2012. So
Gotcha.
we'll be going on 8 years later this year.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask all of you, what's been your highlight? Well, what's been a highlight of being part of Gig Harbor? Joel, why don't you start?
Getting a chance to meet new people and getting a chance to, grow up in a lot of what I grew up around, I mean, it's just been great to get to know a lot more people that have come into our church, like Daniel and Emily. I mean, it's just been great to get to know people that, I mean, if Gig Harbor wasn't around, it'd be sad if I didn't get to know them as well. So,
Yeah.
How about you, Emily? What are your thoughts?
I think having like a group of people that are always there for you, like I don't know, like whenever I'm at school and then I come back for break, everybody's so excited to see me and they're greeting me and they're like, how you doing? And like, I just feel like it's such a caring group of people that like are just always there for you. And yeah, no matter what the situation is. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. What about you, Daniel?
It's tough to pick just one because both of what Joel and Emily said have been part of my highlights, and I agree with them pretty much. But I want to add that part of my maturing into younger adulthood, almost being at my mid-20s, kind of being involved in music and how that's really helped me even outside of the church and going to music school. That has been a very huge help, being involved in all of that. And it was fun being involved with the music at church. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. How about you guys, Reagan, Maddie?
I think it's a toss-up. The music is definitely a huge thing. I love being able to participate and like see how people are led into worship and just like feel the energy in the room. I think that's really, really cool. I've loved going to CMSs with our church and just to be able to like learn more and then come back and apply it. And it's just been a lot of fun. I've also really, really enjoyed watching our church grow and just the people that have come and joined our family. And like, I can't remember church times before Alamance came or Tabor's, or it's just been really fun to see that growth. So, and make new friends that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's got to be the people, I mean, obviously, but yeah, it's been really fun to see new people come in and welcome that, but also very specifically something that I really love about our church is like back in the early days, I kind of get like, I was a kid, so I don't remember a lot, but I remember a little, and I just remember can I say I have a childhood? I'm only 17, but I think of myself
Yes. Yeah, you can.
my childhood. I think of my childhood in like kind of this golden glow with like the summer, and I don't know, it's really the people that were at church that kind of made that difference, because those were the people that we hung out with, like Barrett's and Ian's and Thomas's and like all those guys. And it's funny, I know that the transition from churches was really hard for all those adults, but for the kids it was really fun.
It was a new adventure.
It was
cool.
Yeah, we got to like hang out at other people's houses for church. Like, that's great. It's fun. Anyway, so probably that. But
Yeah, as a kid, that was the best part about being a kid, was I didn't think about finances or what was coming next year. I was just like, where are my friends? You know? But yeah, so that's like it's cool because you guys have such a different perspective of growing up with the church as opposed to this being a new chapter for many people who either started the church or have come into the church later on. You guys have grown up with it. For the three of you that did start with it. Now, I am curious. Give me just a quick insight for Emily and from Emily and Daniel, what your thoughts were of like coming into church. Was it weird trying to make friends? Was it kind of awkward, as kids coming into that?
I think for me, we before that time, we didn't really have a church that we would go to regularly. And so coming to Gig Harbor, at first I was like, why are we going? I was just so confused and and it was scary at first, but then after a few years I got used to it and I really started to enjoy it after that. So
and to add on to my experience, we had consistently for most of my childhood had gone to Sunday churches infrequently. And my parents went, when I was like a baby, went to one of the Adventist churches. I'm blanking on where. I think it might have been Kent. But coming in, I remember sitting down with Ron and Eric Asplund and just them talking the first time. And I think from then I felt very involved because they took the time to sit down and chat with me. I think I warmed up quicker to the church crowd than Emily probably did in that regard.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's such a different perspective of walking in as kids into a situation like that. But okay, here's a couple of questions for all of you as young adults. We've talked with different age groups, and I think you guys have seen most of those. So it's been fun to talk with different age groups because there's different perspectives, there's different ideas. So let's talk about young adults for a second. Young adults, just want to clarify. I don't know how many of you guys went to camp meeting consistently as you're growing up. You
Not
did?
so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
So I just want to share this. So the young adult meeting at camp meeting, it was I think it was 20. It's pretty much like following college. So I guess 18 to 35 was their targeted demographic. And I just wanted, this is a public service announcement for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. You're not young adults. You've grown up, okay? Because that place was full of people who were over 40. And so as much as your parents or your grandparents still want to be young adults, you guys are actually young adults. I just want to affirm you in that. So what is something that you feel like young adults bring to the church that maybe other generations don't? And anybody, we'll open it up for anybody.
I think for me, the answer is kind of cliche, but new ideas and new ways of doing things, because, people live long enough and they have experience in certain things. And maybe they have a certain experience, but sometimes people don't always realize that there's another perspective to an idea. And so I think that one of the things that we bring is a new perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we also bring, I guess more energy naturally because we're younger and yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else want to add to that?
I would say, I think our generation, just this phase of life, we tend to be connected to the group that's statistically the most likely to leave the church. So we have that perspective of well, what can the church do differently to keep these people involved? And how can we meet these people's needs? Because we tend to, I guess we have a little more of a basis to connect with those people, to communicate with them. And then we're they're in our schools, at our jobs, that kind of thing. We just have a little bit more access to that. So absolutely. I think that's definitely an asset to our church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say wit and vivacity. Definitely. Yeah.
I see how it is.
You, but I will disagree.
I like what Emily said about the energy. I like that. That's good. But
wit and vivacity. That is the most unexpected answer I expect. Not that those things are untrue. just the way that they were phrased, I didn't expect that. So
Mm-hmm.
Just to add to what's already been said, and maybe this was already said, maybe I'm just rephrasing it, rehashing it, but bringing the perspective and freshness to not be afraid to take things and flip them on their head and look at them differently, knowing where other people in our age group come from, the ones who are out of the church and who are not, don't feel the need to be part of the church, and how we can remedy that, you know?
now, I didn't have this question written down, but what you brought up sparks another question, which is, I know for many people who have gone before, when you've built something, actually I have this issue, I've been doing yard work, I have this issue, you do something and then you don't want to tear it apart to have to add to it or do something different, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like putting in some borders along a rock path I put in, but I'm like, I don't want to have to do that because I'm gonna have to tear it apart, pull stuff back. I'm gonna have to do so much more. So I understand the fear or the hesitation to say, let's start something over, or let's throw it all up in the air and see how it all comes down. Like I understand the hesitation. What do you think? What is your perspective on let's try something new? Is it to tear down everything that came before, or what is it?
I think that there's definitely something to be said for tradition and the foundations that make us who we are and what we build on. You have to keep those building blocks, but also just because something, also I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in a lot of different areas, and just because something works doesn't mean it's at its best, and things can always be improved. So
Yeah, to sort of add on to that, what Reagan just said, you don't, with everything you disagree with, you don't want to pull out the bottom block of the Jenga stack and let it all drop and fall. You want to look at what's, in my perspective, you want to, most of the time, want to look at what's working and what can be improved to make it better for everybody. There are some things where people be like, a majority of people go, yeah, that sucks, and you change that. You let the brick tower fall.
Yeah. Yes, in essence, that your generation isn't afraid to step in and say, hey, if that falls entirely, we can build a new one.
Right.
But we don't have to necessarily do that with everything.
Yeah.
Right.
absolutely.
And sometimes it's just about like being willing to ask the question, like, why are we doing this? Or is there a better way? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because part of the thing that happens is, and I'm already seeing this at my old age of 27, is you get to a point where you're like, I have good reasons for doing everything that I'm doing, and then someone else who's younger comes along and is like, why are we doing it that way? I'm like, well, I have some reasons, but then they come at stuff from a different perspective, and it's like, oh yeah, I never thought of that from your perspective. Right. But it's hard because you can just kind of think, oh yeah, everyone understands why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that's not necessarily true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to add anything to that? Anyone else? We don't have to, but
that's a good question, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, let me ask. This is always the hard question. What are some of the weaknesses of young adults?
I think that
a lot of weaknesses, guys. Come on.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that we have is that I think that we're full of ourselves, and we tend to not want to pull our weight on this earth.
It's
what I mean by that is you're seeing a lot of younger people not wanting to go to school. You're seeing a lot of younger people just kind of, getting a job, but they may not go to school and actually get an education and help pull their weight in this world. Or, some people live with their parents for a long time because they don't want to work.
Or don't know what they want to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And once again, I'm only speaking somewhat generally. I know that there are a lot of situations that are completely different. I just want to make that clear. I'm only talking about a certain subset of people. So I just want to make that clear before anything else went on. But and I think that a lot of people are becoming detached from their parents too, and they don't necessarily value their relationship with their parents as much anymore, which I think is sad. Anyway, sorry, Reagan, you were...
It's okay. No, that is sad. I agree. Thanks for bringing me down, Joel. I think that there's some truth to that, definitely. And the emphasis on individualism can be a good thing. I very much like being independent and confident, and I don't like it when someone tells me what to do. But it can also breed laziness and pride, and it can be a very toxic thing, and it's dangerous in some regards.
Yeah, the idea that other previous generations may have had, which is this hyper communalism, leads to a lot of people not doing what they ought to do or could do because they're like, oh, I have to just go with society. Whereas the hyper individualism means it's all about me, and then we don't maybe what Joel was saying, pull our weight in society because we're just trying to figure ourselves out as opposed to adding.
Yeah.
What do you think, Maddie?
I think one of the just in terms of this walk of life, like just this age group, you tend to, I do certainly, and I think I think some of you might relate to this, just where you feel like there's this like end point somewhere in the future where you're finally going to be happy and stress-free and like, okay, so I'll graduate college or I'll get this job and then everything's going to be good. And it's not that way, but I think we know that, like in our heads, we may know that, but we make decisions like, okay, well, I just have to get through this and then things will be okay. So I think that definitely influences the way we look at life and the way we make certain decisions. Probably for the worse. So.
Well, it's hilarious because I relate with that heavily, and as soon as I got into like regular employment out of college, it was kind of like, oh, I'm the same person I was with all the same habits I had from like a week ago when I got married. You know, I knew it wasn't going to be like a complete change, but even then I remember sitting there on my wedding day just like, oh, I'm not the same person I was a week, I am the exact same person I was yesterday. There is this kind of idea of maybe someday everything will be fulfilled,
right?
Which is, I think, the wisdom that other generations have, which is they've already been through that. They've seen that.
They're like, no, it won't.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also, on the other side of that, I have a little bit of the opposite problem where like, I think that I don't really think this, but my mind does, if you like go on this one path to like this one career or whatever, then you'll kind of be stuck on that path, and then like you're in your job and then like that's it, you can't really do anything fun after that, which is obviously a lie. But there's still that's kind of the opposite fear in a way. That
is interesting.
Absolutely. Daniel, Emily, I'm curious about your thoughts.
The first one that comes to my mind and is something I struggle with from time to time is, and as someone who teaches people who are younger than me, focus, attention span.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, agreed.
It's only getting worse.
Humans have always had a short attention span, but technology, the way things are, like the way media is and everything is, it's like you can get stuff immediately. So attention span. You're right. Yeah. Emily?
I think since we have technology and phones and stuff, we're more like connected that way, but at the same time we're less connected because we're so distracted by social media and everything happening on the internet. Like we got to know what's happening with these people and with these people and with these people, and it's like we're not really connecting with the people in our lives when we're so distracted by what other people do.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to jump the other question and actually just let's talk about technology for a second. So we were kind of joking about this earlier. I'm a millennial. Daniel's right on the borderline, millennial to Gen Z. Everyone else is Gen Z. And so, which is hilarious because you're all college age and there's a bunch of news outlets that are like, those darn millennials out on the beaches in Florida on spring break. I'm like, we haven't been on spring break. Some of us been on spring break for like 10 years. So it's your guys' fault, actually. Just want
to. Don't tell them. Single Don't worry.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a joke. But so my generation, and maybe Daniel, you can kind of relate with this. I knew a time just before technology took over, meaning that, and I said this a little bit earlier, my dad had, we got dial-up internet. I remember AOL CDs that came with like a certain number of minutes that you could be on dial-up internet. And they were like free trials or whatever. And then finally we got I remember Windows 2000. I remember the millennium when we hit the year 2000. Everyone was freaked out about the world ending. But then technology kind of hit real hard, and especially with the advent of the iPhone, and all of a sudden everything became accessible in the palm of your hand. And you guys have grown up pretty much with that as a reality. Maybe just a little bit before it really hit, but like that's kind of been your reality for most of your life. So tell me, like, what are some of the benefits, the good things that you have found with technology? And then after that, we'll talk about some drawbacks.
I think if we didn't have the internet, school would be a lot harder, like looking up stuff for assignments. Like you'd have to like look in this book and like just try and find it, and like Google saved my life. So.
Oh yeah, the most simple ways, because like people would tell me, oh yeah, we have to go look up stuff in the encyclopedia, and I'm like, I can't even think of a synonym for this word, and so I just Google that, and it, it's perfect, it's easy, it's amazing. So absolutely. Anyone else? Any thoughts on benefits, good things about technology?
The thing that I was thinking of is this is a very like minuscule thing, but like word processors, right? When word processors started coming out, because my dad talks about, like electric typewriters not being able to back up, and you have to start something over again. You have to start a new page. And, I'm thinking about like, grabbing whole paragraphs and moving them up and down in Word. And I was doing that on an essay that I was working on last night. And I was like, man, I can't imagine typing this thing on a typewriter where, you can't move stuff around. And, and I also think that we're using a benefit of it right now, being able to connect with people, whether it's on a screen, being able to connect with people and really talking to each other. I think that that's helped a lot.
Yeah, this epidemic has hit hard, but I think it's mitigated by the fact that we have the ability to still do church, to still have school, to do work from afar. I mean, that's crazy.
I'm sure that we'll talk about how bad technology is in a minute, but we're really blessed to have it. And it's a really cool thing. And probably what Emily said about distractions a while ago is very relevant, but also all the knowledge that you can just find that's literally at your fingertips, just like it's incredible. I mean, it's just really cool.
Yeah, and now is the time to binge watch TED Talks. It is now. The time is now.
Yeah, get inspired, guys. It's not hard. Trust me, just one of those TED Talks, you feel like you can move a mountain.
I know.
So good.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Daniel, do you want to say anything?
Growing up, my experience was that I remember in like learning to type on these little things that didn't even have screens. But when I was young, like I remember having dial-up. I remember AOL Instant Messenger. I remember all that stuff.
Yeah. And
so it's interesting because now, especially as someone who's going to be a music teacher, and someone who writes music, I don't see a way I could do half my job without technology. Right. And the thing I really like about technology is that it's really allowed and really given greater access, musically speaking, to people to write their own music. They don't have to have a piano. They don't, they could just be on their computer. Their stuff for free. I think that's awesome. And you have greater access to knowledge, is what other people have said as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and growing up with it in the palm of your hand, like much of what we talked about is not that we had less knowledge, 30 years ago, but rather that your ability to access it quickly was just very, very like not really existent in the same way that it is today, which is hilarious because we still, let's just start off the negative aspects of technology, which weirdly has actually made us trust information way less because it's so accessible.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's where we get people who are still like even more so into conspiracy theories or just off the wall stuff, while we get flat earthers again because it's crazy. So and my point isn't to knock on those people, but rather that weirdly enough, more information, more connectivity hasn't had the result that you think it would, which is more connected people, and we're just filled with intelligence. Not true. So
Yeah.
let me ask you a couple of things. You can either talk about, societal effects or personal effects on yourself, but what have been some of the drawbacks of growing up into technology?
I think that one of the drawbacks is we're getting to the point now where it's literally taking over our lives. And it's been slowly doing that, I would say, throughout our lifetimes. The thing that I was thinking about was like self-driving cars. That started, when did that start? That started probably, 10 years ago? I would say it was kind of like a big wave of that. And I remember when I turned 16, I was so excited to get my license to drive yourself, right, Jesse? You probably remember that too. Being able to be independent with your own car to go places without your parents being there, right? And I remember that, and I'm thinking my kids might not grow up with that. That's what I was thinking of.
So weird, yeah. Huh?
I'm just thinking about that, and the joy of driving and the joy of doing some of those basic things. Now I'm starting to sound like I'm old, but
Well, but you're right, and to kind of illustrate that, it's to take a lot of the stuff that we as humans we gain satisfaction out of doing stuff ourselves, or getting your hands dirty or something like that. And when you don't have to do that to the same level, then it can cause a negative effect where you actually don't experience the joy and the satisfaction of accomplishing some things that you otherwise could have. So yeah. Anyone else? What are some of the drawbacks? Maybe it's for society or for you personally.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go Emily. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, kind of along the lines of what Joel was saying, that I think people our age, especially, are so addicted to the internet and their phones. Like, there's some people I know that just can't let go of their phone, and it's crazy. So
yeah. And there's this constant dopamine hit that comes from having the visual stimulation as well as the notifications that might come. There's always something that could be happening. And so to go without that, it's not just why are you kids always on your phone? It's actually done something to us in our, in our minds. And that's what a lot of maybe older generations don't understand about this internet. We didn't ask to grow up into it,
Yeah.
That's true. But we're certainly not victims of it. I mean, we definitely have, it's a lot harder to make the choice to not just scroll on Instagram or whatever, because it's fun and it's pretty and there are lots of pictures, but still we definitely have that conscious choice. I mean, we have choices to make, and we can still choose to go pick up a book or go outside, or now I'm sounding old as well.
Well, I also feel like your parents are a specific group of people that have helped instill in you a love for things that aren't just staring at the phone.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But that being said, it's because I totally agree with you, Reagan. We're not just victims of it. You are not just victims of society. But just one thing that I don't think other generations understand is the mental and the things that actually change brainwave wise that cause people to be the way that they are. And yet you're right. If we just assume that we're victims, then we're just going to be victims.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I totally agree with you, Emily. It's especially for me, it's such it's kind of a vortex that just kind of pulls you in, even just looking at your phone, scrolling while you're laying in bed or whatever. And I don't feel good after I've scrolled Instagram for way too long, but I still do it. It doesn't, it's it doesn't make sense. And it's really, really hard to resist sometimes.
Yeah. It's kind of a hard habit to break.
Yeah. Definitely.
You need to be jarred out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. And back to what you were saying about the notifications, Jesse, I actually took a test earlier today, and even sitting here, my phone is right in front of me. I'm looking at it to see if that grade for that test came in, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're constantly looking for that kind of stuff, and we're constantly just looking at them all the time. And it doesn't help, because I know that I love nature. I love it when I go on my backpacking trip, because there's no need for a phone out there. the phone is what you're looking at. That blue screen is called the sky, right? So I mean, in my head, I'm like, I look forward to like the houseboat trip and those days where there's just no electronics to worry about. You know, look forward to those kind of things for sure.
And part of it is definitely it's necessary now. Technology is very necessary now, you know, because we all need it obviously for school now, or like even all jobs or most jobs, you need it. And so it's nice to have those little vacations where you don't need your technology or whatever is really relaxing if you can give that up.
Absolutely. Daniel, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to take a different twist at this as someone. This is kind of coming from personal experience, is general, and from being a teacher perspective. With technology and how connected we are, one of the drawbacks is that if you're an individual who anywhere outside your home, you're getting picked on by somebody, they have access to you at your home through social media.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's not pleasant sometimes. And there's the positives to having technology, but there's also that access that people can get to you and constantly pick on you 24/7 if they want to.
Right.
Yeah. Can't escape
You
it.
have less privacy in a way.
Yeah, it's crazy. Technology, just my 2 cents in here is technology is obviously amazing in so many ways, but because it's so necessary, it means that we cannot, like, if you don't have a phone, your workplace will probably be really annoyed with you, you know, just because it's like you can't do simple tasks that everybody else would be able to do. And yet at the same time, the thing about technology, especially social media and all the stuff that we have in technology, is it allows you to do things that you would do in real life, but do them just enough that you're actually doing them without having to experience the negative effects. You're in essence doing things halfway. So if I'm shooting Daniel a text, "Hey Daniel, how's it going, man?" He's like, "Oh, I'm good, cool." We just interacted, right?
Yeah.
And so I've done it, but I haven't really actually done it. And so we can feel like we're building a relationship even though we really haven't. Same thing with like watching or playing video games. Video games, you play a video game and it feels like you've accomplished something, which is fun. And not that video games are inherently bad, but you feel like you've accomplished a goal even though you've actually accomplished pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and it's the same thing with so many different aspects of society of society online or technology, where you feel like you've accomplished a good thing, a great thing, but you haven't to the degree that you would have if you had to do it in real life. And then what you're saying too, Daniel, which is that crazy enough, suicide rates, depression, anxiety, like the rates of that have skyrocketed in ways that you would not think a relatively well-educated, wealthy society would have those results in. It's nuts, and it's almost entirely down to technology, which is crazy. So yeah, so you guys are, you get to grow up in that. That's fun.
Woo!
And that's part of the reason why I bring it up, is because I do want other generations to understand that this, while obviously we've grown up in technology, which means we use it in a different way, not all of it is even welcome in our lives. Even like you said, Maddie, where it's like I'm scrolling Instagram, I don't actually even enjoy it half the time. I'm like, why am I doing this? But it's built into culture, society. That's a lot of the times people don't use text anymore. They DM on Instagram.
Yeah.
Which is a direct message for anyone else who doesn't know what it is. But yeah, so it's crazy how much it's invaded. So let me just ask you this last question when it comes to generations, and then I'm going to ask you about church. So what do you think is misunderstood by other generations about yours?
I'll start, if that's okay. I think people have this idea that we're all lazy looking at our phone all the time. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely met those people that are super lazy, and it drives me nuts. But we're not all lazy. And I mean, yeah, most of us are addicted to our phones. I am too, but we're trying our best. I guess that's what I want to put out there.
Yeah.
I love how you put that. I want to highlight that for anyone else listening, that it is, many people are simply trying their best in a world that nobody saw coming and nobody was prepared for.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. I agree.
Maddie, do you want to say?
Sure. I think you highlighted it a little bit, just with like, we don't always want to be on our phones. Like we don't always do it just because we enjoy it. I think we're starving for investment, like to not just be pushed aside by other generations. We want people to like connect with us and care about what we're doing. And like there are things that like, we know it's the technology, like we know we're addicted to it. A lot of us don't really know like what we want to do with our lives. Like it's just, I think that the tendency to just like, oh, well, they're just always on their phone or they're just lazy. That's definitely to our detriment when it gets like, yeah, that's an excuse to not pay as much attention to us, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can make other generations take your generation and my generation less seriously because whereas this generation has actually been part of, I know millennials, I could say about my generation, has been part of some of the most sweeping changes in society and in culture. And so it has not been idle by any means, but it definitely doesn't look like the same kind of work other generations have done because there's so much technology involved. So yeah. Emily, Reagan, Joel? You don't have to have something, by the way, but if you do have something misunderstood about your generation by others.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'll say I know that when I'm at school, whether it's busyness, I mean, I know that at school I'm always so busy. I'm running around, I mean, Jesse, I actually study in Kretschmar, and Sittner is, even though Sittner is right there, sometimes when I'm having to go back and forth between those two to go and get something, or those kind of times add up, or then when I have to go all the way to the GHAF for dinner on the other side of the street, or stuff like that, it adds up time. And so we're always just so busy. And so study time is less. And then you have distractions like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You add up all the time that we spend doing that. Some of that is unavoidable, some of it isn't. But I think that that's ended up being more of a hindrance than it has been a help.
Yeah.
Was
that?
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
It's sort of because of the older generations and our parents always telling us we have to be busy. Some of us are very busy in very productive ways, and people see that.
Yeah.
But there's also a good chunk of us that are busy in not productive ways. And so I think that's what people notice more. And so for what it's worth.
Yeah. And that is true. There is definitely the weaknesses of generations, but also the misunderstood thing where just because you're on your phone doesn't mean you're wasting time, because that's where a large portion of learning and work happens, or social connection. So, yeah.
This isn't exactly an answer to your question, but I think it's an important thing that we should keep in mind is that no one's lived through this before, and no one's been our age here before. And so that's definitely an important thing to remember. But even more important, I think, is that when we grow up and when we look at the next generation, to cut them maybe a little slack and don't say back in my day, and help them out. I mean, we're not going to be kids forever, but they're always going to be kids that we can help and connect with, and try to figure it out together.
Well, back in my day, I'm just kidding.
Right. So old.
Well, and actually, that's the funny thing is that millennials and Gen Z, there's already a gap, where Gen Z is like, oh, those millennials. And there are the generational things that will always happen because we've experienced different things. But you're absolutely right that one of the best things that any generation can do for the generation that's coming after is they're experiencing things that no one else has experienced before. They look at the world differently than I do. Maybe it's a good thing to try and understand where they're coming from and cut them slack, which is what my generation needs to do to yours, and your generation needs to do to the next one.
Right. We need to be teachers and mentors instead of critics.
Yeah, that's good. Ooh, you need to write that down. You need to post that on Instagram so when people are mindlessly scrolling, they see that.
Like,
So,
look at this. I'm wise.
Emily, did you want to say anything? You don't have to, but if you want to.
I'll say something real quick. I think that not a lot, but like some older people think that our generation doesn't know a lot. Like I've heard some people say like, "Oh, this is a CD. I don't know if you've ever heard."
Oh,
it.
I hate that. God.
I'm not that young. Like I know some stuff, so it's just frustrating when that happens. But
Good old floppy disks.
It's like, we had a VCR. Like, we're not that young.
But then again, when I'm asking about their worst style decisions and someone says, I wore a polyester pantsuit, I was like, I don't know what that is. So maybe some of you do, but I was like, at least I don't know what that looked like.
I want to know what that is. That's not my God.
So yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you, I'm gonna mix these two questions together. So feel free to answer both when you go. But tell me a little bit about your relationship with God today. It's not even so much that each generation has a different relationship with God. Each person has a different relationship with God. So I'm curious about yours. And then what are your hopes and dreams for the church, Gig Harbor specifically? What are your hopes and dreams for the church? So if whoever wants to start, go for it.
I can start. My relationship with God, it's not where I want it to be. I don't think it ever really will be, but I wish I spent more time in prayer. I wish I thought about it more throughout the day. Like I know that the way I believe impacts my choices, but I'm not consciously thinking through like, where does God want me? What am I doing in this situation? How can I serve as much as I'd like to? I really connect through God with music. So that's always something I can turn to. I've been doing the New Testament reading challenge with the church, and I miss a day or two every once in a while, but that's been good just to stay in the Word at least. And and it's a struggle. It's like it's just always a struggle. You just have to commit and like make it a priority. I guess dreams for the church. I would say I'd love to see a revival. That would be super amazing. And I think our church as GHAF definitely makes an impact in the community. But I think if each of us as individuals own that and take the church to people who would never walk through our doors, that's a way that we can really share the gospel and make an impact for good in bringing Christ's kingdom here. So that would be something really cool I'd love to see in our church.
That's good. I love that. Yeah.
You're so well spoken. Look at her.
Says the person who said wit and vivacity
I
earlier.
know. I didn't say I'm not. Maybe it's genetic. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Reagan, do you want to go?
Sure. I guess I've talked myself into that. Well, sorry. Straight face. Okay. God and I have never been particularly close. But more than anything, I definitely see him in the people around me and in my family. And obviously I grew up in this, and kind of like, as ideal as an environment gets, I kind of grew up in that. So I think I'll be okay. But I definitely see him in my family and in my friends and just our church and the people around me. And that has definitely impacted me a lot. And the music stuff, I can see him in that. And I can also see, I can just see the people who come in, and I can definitely tell Christians are a lot nicer than non-Christians in general. That's a very broad generalization, but still. And as for our church and hopes for that, pretty much what Maddie said, I would say. You said it better than I could, so just take what Maddie said and copy and paste, and you'll be fine.
Sounds good. Emily, do you want to go?
Sure. I think a few years ago, my relationship with God was more exciting than it is now. But I think now it's pretty steady, and there's some days where I don't connect with God, and then most of the time I do, and that I think I have the foundation. I would love to get the excitement back that I had before, but I don't have that right now. And I think that I connect with God mostly through music. Like that's the main thing. Like singing, I love singing, and I play ukulele, so I like to do that as well.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then what I hope to see for the church is just for it to grow, and especially with young people. A lot of young people aren't going to church, and they haven't, heard the word, and so I would love to see that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Daniel, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so my relationship with God, I think, is on a positive note overall. I'm the kind of person that I ask big questions in my head a lot. And so, like, when someone says prayer, I'm asking myself, okay, does prayer have to be me sitting down, hunched with my hands like this and like this? Or are the running thoughts in my head just thoughts running to God? And, because sometimes I feel like I just have running dialogue. Like I have my mind is a phone and I'm just talking to God all the time, and he's just there. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. But maybe not saying that, but
I get what you're saying.
In terms of, I think what I struggle the most with is Bible reading and getting into it, because I've always struggled with, I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, the words say what they say, and I'm like, boom, that's it. So I have trouble understanding the people who get really deep into interpreting everything. That's not how me and the Bible rolls for the most part. And so it gets a little tough to get into it sometimes.
Yeah.
How I connect with God, definitely through music and through the circumstances in my life. Some things have just happened. I look back and I'm like, okay, there's no way that could have happened if God didn't do that, because weird. And then I'm saying a lot. Moving to, and just the people that are around me. I see even the people I work with in the classical ensembles I play, even if they're not quote unquote Christians, I see a lot of God in them because we come together to make something beautiful. And so I see God in a lot of people within the church and outside the church too, whether or not they acknowledge it or not. What I want for the church, or for GHAF, has been said for the most part. More young people coming in. Sometimes I feel like there's some barriers in between various groups in the church, and I think the breaking down of those barriers we're a fairly close-knit group, I will say, but I think there's still some barriers there that can maybe be worked on.
Yeah, that's good. Joel, do you want to close us out with the most insightful, beautiful language?
Right. Yeah. I think that one of the important things is that the church needs to start locally and start working on themselves before we start moving out. And, I hear a lot, outreach, really get out there. Well, I think that the first step to doing that is starting at yourself, evaluating how you're dealing with young people, because I think that young people unintentionally, I think that they're shunned away from the church because they're not being welcomed into the church.
Yeah.
We have been lucky to grow up in a church where it has been emphasized to be welcome to everybody, young or old. And so I think that for us, we've been fortunate to see that, but I know that a lot of my friends haven't. Even in the Adventist church, I see it. And so I think that that's one thing that we could work on. And I noticed this when I was in Guatemala, that not only the local churches that were in the 2 villages that we were a part of, but the people were so closely knit, and outreach was really important, because as Christians, not only are we working on ourselves, but we want to work on other people. And so I think that both are about equally as important, but I think that we should start with ourselves before going out.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, and it's always so hard because we want to go do the tangible results things, you know.
Yeah.
But
That instant gratification that we're so used to getting that we
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's the problem, is you can't Amazon one day delivery yourself into a relationship with someone, and so that's the. I mean, that's the hard part about, especially for our generation, is learning. Our age group is learning how to bring God into conversations without forcing it or anything like that. That's a huge. That's a tough one. And a lot of us probably haven't seen it modeled well. And that's not to be negative on other people, but it's just like, you know, they maybe didn't see it modeled well, and so that's always a struggle. But I love your hearts for the church. I love your vision for the church, and I know that it's a struggle. I agree that like a relationship with God is a thing that we get taught a lot. Like be in a relationship with God, but then it's hard to figure out what that looks like for me personally. But here's my 2 cents of millennial giving advice. Is first and foremost, a relationship is just it's just a relationship, just like anything else. And so there's going to be good moments, there's going to be bad moments, and feeling guilty about the bad moments and feeling like everything is perfect when the good moments are happening don't really do you a lot of justice. It's living in the reality that you're in a relationship. And so don't put pressure on yourself to be something huge, because you guys probably heard from other generations, they're still struggling with it. And so learning to live in the tension of, sometimes I'm going to be real close, sometimes I'm going to be like too busy, and I will have made a mistake, and you know, you're going to have those moments. But you guys have so much life ahead of you that you have so much time to grow into a good relationship with God, which is cool. And so whereas the other generations, like they're a couple doors from they're like, 10 years. Your parents are probably 10 years from retirement, and then they're gone after that. So immediately. So sorry, I'm saying that for all of the middle-aged people who are like, we're not old.
Right.
So I'm giving them a hard time. But yeah, thank you so much for being part of this. You guys have
thank you.
You guys have such a good you guys have such a good heart for the church and for God, and for not just staying the same. That's again not a knock against previous generations, but bringing in what your strength is, which is, let's look at this, let's ask ourselves what can be done, and let's be part of making a difference. And so that's really cool. Whereas other generations bring other strengths, which are many, and we can learn from a lot of them. But I love that you guys are bringing such a specific set of passion and hope for the church. So yeah.
Thank you, Jesse.
You've done such a good job managing all these different people and all these interviews. Seriously, I mean, say whether it's our job or not. It's been some good
discussion.
It's been really good.
Thank you.
And you've been a big part of that. So thank you.
It's been fun though. It's fun to talk to everybody, and So, but anyways, why don't we'll cut it here, and thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.